Welcome. And does chemical depigmentation remove 100% of the pigment? That's what a lot of people ask. And your clients will ask you this too. It's actually quite old, this chemical depigmentation method, but it's getting better and better. Everything in the skin sector in micropigmentation and depigmentation has improved. Guys, it's a common question among both professionals and clients whether chemical depigmentation can completely remove pigment from the skin. The answer is straightforward. No, it does not remove 100% of the pigment from the skin because that will depend on several factors and we're going to talk about them. It can remove up to 90, and I've even seen up to 95%. I'll show you photos of depigmentation procedures done, where chemical depigmentation was used, leaving only very faint traces of the old pigment. Even not micropigmentation, but eyebrows that were pigmented by tattoo artists, I was able to remove up to 95%. This will depend a lot on the work itself, on the pigment that was used, the depth, the number of cover-ups, and how many times the person had it done. If they only did it once, it's easier to remove. So it depends on several factors. Let's see what factors will affect the percentage of removal. In a depigmentation, but in any case, it can be resolved. Type of pigment in desai. Older and more superficial pigments tend to lighten better than newer and deeper pigments. Actually, what will interfere here is the depth. If the person did the micropigmentation very deep with very defined edges, that will make it more difficult. It's easier to remove shading than to remove the edge. People usually emphasize the edge much more, and that makes it harder. Depth of application. The deeper it is inserted, the harder it will be to remove. Definitely. The heavier the hand and the more defined and deeper the micropigmentation, the harder it will be, and it will take more sessions. We can tell when it's very defined or when it's just a light shading. So, for example, hair strokes take quite a while to remove. Edges take longer and shading comes off more quickly. Also, how many times the client has had repigmentation. There are people who have done this micropigmentation 6 or 7 times, just adding layer upon layer of pigment, and that makes it harder. The more times someone has repeated the micro procedure, the more sessions it will take to remove. Individual skin reaction. Each body responds differently to the depigmentation process, which affects the final lightening result. There are people who, depending on their skin phototype, actually expel pigment more quickly than others. So there is a different reaction from skin to skin because skin is a living organism and each person responds in their own way. Some skin is very sensitive, so you need to wait 40 days before repeating the procedure, while others heal so quickly, have such good healing, that you can stick to the minimum interval of 30 days. Time since the microblading was done. Recent pigments can be more resistant to removal than those that have already undergone natural degradation. Of course, if you have a grayish degraded pigment, it's easier to remove. But if you have a healed eyebrow with very dark, vibrant pigment, where there's a lot of ink, it will be more difficult. There's much more ink for you to remove. Another question that would be worth asking at this point. Can I depigment a microblading procedure right after it's been done? Yes. A microblading procedure right after it's done, the pigment still hasn't set in the skin, because there hasn't been enough time for healing yet. I can remove it on the same day. Of course, it's a rather painful procedure because you've just done the procedure and are already going to remove it. So, the depigmentation has to be done very gently, but it responds very well when it's done before the microblading has healed. These are rare cases, but it has happened. I've already removed a microblading on the same day that someone had it done at another place and came to me to have it removed. Now, if it were after 24 hours, I wouldn't be able to do the chemical depigmentation because by then a scab would have formed. From the moment the skin enters the inflammatory phase, when it's already inflamed and covered with scabs, I can't do anything. Then I have to wait for the proper time for the skin to regenerate and heal, which is at least 30 days before doing another procedure. But if it's done immediately, wow, I just had the microblading done and now I already want to remove it. It can be done. But remember, it's a second procedure that causes trauma, so it must be done very carefully with a very light hand, okay? Oh, there was a mistake in my client's micropigmentation. Suddenly one area went higher than it should have, higher than the other. Can I do the macro depigmentation immediately? Yes, you can. And the result will be excellent. Why? Because the skin hasn't healed yet. The pigment isn't settled in the skin, so it's very easy to remove it. But if time has passed, if I did the micropigmentation one day and 24 hours have already gone by, then it's no longer possible. It has to be either immediately or after the skin has healed, which is after 30 days. There's no doing it in between. And the number of sessions in cases, yes, number of sessions. In some cases, multiple sessions are needed to achieve the desired result. What are those cases? Very dark eyebrows require more sessions. The goal of removing a design that you're not satisfied with at all, like eyebrows that are too close together, too wide, one arched and the other straight, crooked, everything. That requires more sessions. When you have to remove the design, you need many sessions. If the eyebrow is too dark and the design is crooked, so in that case, you'll need about 10 sessions. If the eyebrow just needs to be lightened. The client is happy with the design but just wants it lighter, 3 sessions. So we're going to assess how deep the pigment is, what color it is, whether it's very dark or already looks a bit faded, and the skin phototype. If the skin with a low phototype, you'll get results faster than with high phototype skin. So this will have a significant impact on the results. That's why we work with packages and treatments starting from 3 sessions. And what if it doesn't come off 100%? Oh, I did a package of 10 chemical depigmentation sessions, and the client wanted the design to come off completely, but it didn't. There was a small trace left. If there are still traces of pigment left after chemical depigmentation, we can turn to the camouflage technique. This technique uses skin-colored pigments. There's beige, medium beige, darker beige, and lighter beige. Generally, I use medium beige, which works for all skin types. And here you're not neutralizing, but rather camouflaging. Camouflaging means hiding that small trace that didn't come out completely, usually. It's in the high point area right here where small remnants remain. You can use camouflage. It has always been a complement to depigmentation used by micropigmentation artists and tattoo artists when there's a need to camouflage or hide a certain area, but that area must be light. Camouflage will only work if you've already depigmented and lightened the area well. Then you can use this card, which is camouflage, and it helps a lot. So it will cover any visible remnants and the result will be long-lasting. Why will it be long-lasting? Because you're applying it over something very light, not over anything dark. If it were dark, it wouldn't be able to provide coverage there. Another option is to wait for the natural process of skin renewal to see if further interventions are needed. So if a very light spot remains, let's wait 30 or 40 days to see if there's a need for another depigmentation session, if necessary, as long as you allow enough time for the skin to regenerate and the skin heals well, there's no problem in doing another session. Chemical depigmentation is highly effective, but there's no way to guarantee that it will remove everything 100%. No, not even with laser. There are cases with laser where we can achieve that, especially when we not only depigment but also treat. But even with laser, you can't always get complete removal. There are many people who have undergone laser depigmentation and achieved about 90–95% removal, but it didn't reach 100%. The final result depends on multiple factors. An excess of layers, multiple repetitions, skin phototypes, the depth of the pigment, and the intensity of the color all play a role. And the professional should always align expectations with the client before the procedure. Now, you always tell the client that it can be resolved. Absolutely, there's always a solution. You'll do the depigmentation, have more sessions, and if there's any trace left, you use camouflage, and that solves it. See you in the next class.